Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Johnston, your host here at VID Conferences. I'm very grateful to have you back at the top of the hour. I want to thank our sponsor, of course, once again, Laurentian Bank Securities, for helping to make this event happen. And at this top of the hour, we have the wonderful honor of welcoming Elaine Ellingham, who's President and CEO of Omai Gold Mines. Elaine, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I will leave you with the reins. I'll step to the side and I'll come back around for the question and answer, but looking forward to your presentation.
Okay, great. Yeah, I want to thank you for inviting Omai to speak today. Great opportunity. I'm Elaine Ellingham. I'm the CEO of Omai Gold. I am an exploration geologist originally, a lot of corporate experience over the years, a lot in gold. And I had spent about 8 years at the Toronto Stock Exchange. And after that, consulting. And I've sat on a lot of boards, and Omai kind of captured my interest. And here I am, I think, in an area where I know well, running this company. So I'll tell you a bit about it. I think it's not your average company. I think it's an exceptional exploration company. So just the forward-looking statements that I will be making, just some cautionary notes on that. So basically our project is the past producing Omai Gold Mine in Guyana, and most of you will know something about it. So I guess one of the things is when Omai was in production, it was quite a significant producer, produced over 300,000 ounces per year on average over its 12-year mine life. And in 2002, it actually produced 356,000 ounces, so quite a large producer. And when it was in production, it was South America's largest primary gold producer. One thing that I thought was quite interesting is it actually outperformed its original feasibility study. In just 12 years in production, it actually went 40% over the original feasibility study. And I think, as you all know, not too many projects do that. So another thing is there are untapped drilled resources already in place. There were 2 producing pits. There was the Wenot and the Fennell pit. And under the Fennell, there is a historic resource that was drilled off by IM Gold. So, and then at the Wenot pit, we knew that mineralization continued at depth. So we already had a bit of a leg up towards building some resources. And then we also inherited a great database of information, both from the exploration, the pre-production, and the production data. So we are well located about 165 kilometers south of Georgetown in Guyana. And we have an airstrip. You can drive to the property as well. So with respect to the historic mining, the property had reverted back to the government. So it was fully remediated, and we're totally indemnified against any of the historical mining issues. So no communities are nearby. So again, that's not an issue. And Guyana has become quite a hot region for exploration and mining. And we'll talk later about some of the transactions that have been going on. So it is a stable jurisdiction. It does, even being there, you feel like it has the legacy of the British law and business practices. And for us, Omai was such a famous asset when it was in production, and it was a great employer, contributed to the tax base, that the government is very keen to see this brought back into production. So managing their expectations is one thing we actually have to do, because they are quite enthusiastic. So there is a new management team. The company came out of an RTO about just over a year ago now. There's been quite a significant management change, and I think we're on the ground and ready to move forward. So we are already fast tracking to an initial 43-101 on the Wenot resource, and I'll talk a bit about that. Oops, that was quite a jump. So our board, basically, Wenot Adams is the chairman. Myself, Denny Clement, who's a well-established businessman and done a lot in the mining space, also in Guyana. And Nadine Miller is with JDS, an engineer, and she sits on the board of Wesdome, so she's very entrenched in the mining industry as well. And Lon Shaver, who many of you probably know, was an investment banker for many years. He's with Silver Corp, which has a 15% interest in the company, so he is the nominee on the board. So I would just note that Wenot and I worked together actually at IM Gold. I was there as a senior VP, and he was the general manager at Rosabelle, so we met there. And then I was a longtime board member on Richmont Mines and stepped in as interim CEO. And then Wenot Adams came in to develop and fast track the Island Gold property through to the takeover by Alamos. So we have worked together before, and we think our skills complement each other. He's a great mine developer. I'm on the exploration space. So yeah, so it was great. It's great working with him again. Yeah, so I believe that, you know, you have a great project, you need the great team. Basically, you can't execute without a lot of expertise. So basically, I've brought in my own team to this, and I hired the best geologist I know, who's John Spurney, and I've done a lot of due diligence with him over the years. He's been involved with quite a few discoveries, and he's done, you know, he's worked for Barrick, Placer Dome, Gold Corp. Sort of the best of both worlds, but truly a nose for finding deposits. Linda Hesterman has to be mentioned. She's a PhD geologist, but she actually worked for Omai Gold on the Omai project, and also worked for the Guyanese government for 8 years. So she actually was the one that harvested the data from Omai Gold when the project reverted to the government. So she's got a tremendous level of expertise and knowledge on all the data, which is invaluable. And then we have two geologists basically that John Spurney knew, and they're sort of mid-career people with great expertise. So I think we're in good shape to execute on the project. So one of the things about Omai is when it was in production, it truly was in a cursed period of time. I'm sure a lot of people remember these times, but it came into production in 1992, 93. It was in a very low gold price environment. It still made money, but basically there was no incentive to explore, expand, and this was in production with Cambior, and so they had discovered Rosabelle, which is about 200 kilometers east in Suriname, and so by 2003 they had already decided to relocate the mill and move a lot of the equipment over to Rosabelle, which was a far larger mine. So investment was not the focus for most of the mine life. It's to our benefit because there were a lot of exploration targets I sort of identified and worked a bit before it came into production, but they were never pursued. So that's to our advantage. So just looking at the amount of drilling that had been at Omai, again, this reflects the gold price at the time and the reluctance of Cambior to do any additional investment into the future of the mine. So it is elephant country for sure. Definitely underexplored relative to a lot of our peer companies operating in the Guyana Shield. So I see it as relatively low risk exploration when you're on a project that had past production, already has historic resources, opportunities to expand the resources at depth and along strike, plus the exploration targets right in the immediate vicinity. So I think it's a great opportunity. So the Guyana Shield, there is a lot of activity there. I'm sure a lot of you know about what's going on there. It is definitely a focus. It's receptive to mining, and the geology of it, as a lot of you know, it's still the Paleoproterozoic. So you get the gold deposits, not that dissimilar to what you see in Ontario and Quebec here. They're orogenic gold. They tend to have deep roots. They tend to be prolific producers. So a lot of people know that it basically plate tectonics is such that the West African Shield is sort of the equivalent of the Guyana Shield. Far more gold has been found there. And so the Guyana Shield is less explored. It has been a little more rugged turf and jungle. So I think it's coming to its time. And just below you see there has been a lot of market interest, really, and the Guyana Goldfields acquisition by Zijin after a bit of a bidding war was one of them. That was about a year and a half ago now. And then earlier this year, Gran Colombia took over GoldX with the Toroparu prospect, which is quite a bit to the south. But again, one of the things I would say was very important was Barrick did a little toehold investment into a company called Troy Resources. They're actually located about 40 kilometers west of our property. I think it's it's basically coffee money for Barrick, but I think part of it was basically to give them a base and an administrative hub to operate and basically start looking at the geology and prospects in Guyana. So for Omai, there were two past producing pits, the Wenot and the Fennell pit. You can see them when they were in operation on the right. And when you look to the left, you can see that the round one is the Fennell, which was a quartz diorite stock, about 400 meters across, and it produced 2.4 million ounces. The Wenot pit, the paler blue, that produced about 1.4 million ounces, both average grade, about 1.5, 1.6 grams per ton. That pit on the Wenot pit there, that's actually 1.7 kilometers long. And you can see at the end, there's our airstrip. It's about a 1 kilometer airstrip there. I'd also bring your attention to this hill just in behind the Fennell pit, which is Broccoli Hill. Very little exploration has been done there, although a lot of historic pork knockers, mining along the sides, and a lot of artisanal mining, over 100 years of it in spots on the hill. So it's a really interesting prospect. So just one of those sort of standard comparatives, but I think they're very telling. You've got the Aurora mine here on the right, which was Guyana Goldfields, now by Zijin. And you can see there the Rory's Knoll deposit. It's about 200 meters across, has been identified down to 2 kilometers, and is often said to be analogous to our Fennell, the Omai stock. So our Omai stock is about 400 meters across, and ours has only been mined down to about 250 meters. You can see sort of the clustering of deposits, same as what we see. So on the left is the Wenot pit. It was mined down to a maximum depth of 200 meters. And that's actually been the focus of where we've been looking to date this year and done the bulk of our drilling. So the Fennell, that's 2.4 million ounces. And that bottomed in a barren diabase sill that you can see there. But after the mine ceased production, Cambior had been acquired by IM Gold in 2006. And then in 2007, IM Gold went in. They pumped a little bit of water that had come into the old pit, and they drilled 46 holes beneath that sill, and they identified significant mineralization. And so there's a historic resource on that, which I'll talk about, and we intend to do work to bring that into 43-101 compliance next year. So this is where we've focused the drilling to date this year. And this is the Wenot pit. You're looking at it in plan view at the bottom there. And the yellow indicates all of the drill holes we've completed to date under the Wenot pit. And the top is a longitudinal section. So you can see the light blue, basically there was production of about 1.4 million ounces of gold. And we drilled, so that, as I said, the maximum depth was about 200 meters. And we drilled below that, testing from 150 to 200 meters, 250 meters below that. So we finished our drilling on that about a month ago, and we have all our results with the QP. So the data set is quite extensive, really. So it's not just the 16 holes that we drilled, but we also have all of the pre-production data, and a lot of the old Cambior holes would have extended below the pit bottom. So we have that information. And we've done a lot with modeling the blast hole data, which is quite interesting for being able to get a sort of a clear orientation on the zones. So you can see down at the bottom some of the best intervals we've intersected: 9 grams over 16 meters, 3.6 grams over 32 meters, 6.6 grams over 9 meters, etc. And a lot of lower grade, some wide zones as well. So these are sort of the cross sections. We have obviously fully confirmed that those mineralized shears continue at depth here. You can see in the upper right there, we've actually we're intersecting this a full 250 meters under the pit. So that kind of speaks to the continuity of these zones at depth. So what I would say, like geologically, it's really quite simple. There was a very continuous deformation zone that extends quite a long distance, 1.7 kilometers of the pit and beyond, both east and west. And it's a major deformation zone that saw a lot of motion over time. It's actually straddling a very definitive contact between metavolcanics on the north and some lithic wackies or metasediments on the south. And almost always along that, there's a major shear that's been intruded by a felsite dike that was subsequently fractured, and then the mineralizing fluids go in there. So that zone can be quite impressive. On this section, you can see it's like 16 meters of 8.9 grams, down below 6 meters of 20 grams. But you can also see there's multiple other shears, and all of these saw, several reactivations, and they were intruded by dikes, and then those dikes were subsequently fractured, and then the mineralizing fluids come in. So it's a fairly simple model, but it leads to, there's been a lot of gold mineralization in this system. So this is the other past producing pit, Fennell. As I mentioned, 2.4 million ounces, average grade, average 1.5 grams per ton. I would also note something, I'll just throw in that about 30% of the production was through the gravity circuit. So these are nuggety deposits. You can get fairly high grades, and we'll look at some of those. But this is only 400 meters across. Again, twice the diameter of Rory's Knoll. But about 10,000, 9,600 ounces per vertical meter. So fairly nice sized deposits. And so there's that barren sill I mentioned, and this is the deposit that IM Gold had drilled off in 2007. So you can see 41 intervals in those 46 holes ran over an ounce per ton over a meter. There were 3 intervals they saw that ran over 1,000 grams per ton. And in quite a few, you'll see there's intervals like 143 meters at 2.6 grams. Or sorry, there's something wrong with that one. It's 143 meters of 2.6 grams. So again, an interesting target, and we will look at that next year. So the plan is to, we've got the Wenot done. We're expecting the resource within the next few weeks. And then next year, we will take on the Fennell and bring that resource into 43-101 compliance. But also, we will extend the drilling to look at it at depth, because even the deepest holes on that were still in mineralization. So basically, we're looking at here is the historic resource is done by IM Gold, and they capped it at 15 grams per ton, and you can see there basically 17, 18 million tons, average grade about 2.51 for about 1.4 million ounces. Just to give you an idea of the size of the target. Uncapped, it looks like about 2.5 million ounces. What we have done is we had Gold Source model both this and the blast hole data in the upper part of the deposit. And I think that's actually their kind of sweet spot. Very informative, very helpful to see the orientation of the various zones and trends. And I think that's going to assist us greatly when we both drill this to verify the resources, but also explore further at depth. So just quickly, there's the sort of the low-hanging fruit, which are the resources that are kind of obvious, and then there's the game changers. So some of the important ones, to the east of Fennell, there's this Broccoli Hill that has seen a lot of work, and I'll talk about that. A lot of people have always felt that there was another Fennell buried there in that hill. So we are looking at that currently. There are extensions. This is a GEMCOM model of all of the production zones within that Wenot pit. You can see how complex they are, but these are all the mineralized zones that they mined. We know it extends to the east. I also you can see that this is the sediment hosted one in the blue, that it splays off here. This is a great target. Potential for near surface unmined material. And then even to the west of Fennell, there were some interesting historic, as I said, there were exploration holes done, but a lot not pursued. Some near surface values, 40 meters at 1.2 grams. There's further down an interval of 20 meters of 6.9 grams. These are things for us to pursue. And then we did the geophysics at the end of in 2020. And basically you can see in the bottom left there, the aeromagnetics. Wenot is a great mag high. Fennell is more of a mag low. There are other similar anomalies on the property, and outside this immediate area, they haven't been looked at. So that's another target for us. And then in the Guyana Shield, a lot of people do their exploration just going to where the local artisanal miners, they're called the pork knockers, go. And we have several large areas where the pork knockers have you can see all the pitting there that they've done pursuing gold in the saprolite. And so again, we have to develop an exploration strategy for those. So Broccoli Hill, definitely one of our priority targets. And you can see it, I hope you can see it there. You're looking at, in the top right, the photograph, you can see it's got the trees on it, looks like broccoli. That's why it's named Broccoli Hill. The Fennell pit and the Wenot pits on the bottom right there, only about 400 meters between those two pits. So you kind of realize that this project as a whole, if the road was a bit different, this probably would be a super pit. And so there is a lot of mineralization in different places right in the main area. But Broccoli Hill is obviously an interesting one. So if you look at the aeromag down in the south, in the bottom left, you can see it's a mag low. Fennell was a mag low. There's not a lot of definition that we can extract from the geophysics from the aeromag. We've done various things, and at the end of the day, it's not the best tool for refining targets. But I would point out on the bottom right there, quite interesting. All those yellow dots are basically old mining workings up on the hill in the saprolites, and there are large geochem anomalies that are shown in yellow. Many generations of soil geochem have been done by Cambior and Placer Dome in the Wayback Zone. So interesting stuff. We have been working up in this area where the yellow dots are. Done some trenching, found some mineralization, some quartz veining, and some shearing in there. An old auger hole just up in that area ran 12.4 grams in saprolite between 4 and 6 meters. So some interesting things. There's definitely gold in the system. It is a large target. This is actually 700 meters by almost 500 meters. So it is a large area. You probably could fit a couple of Fennells in there. So basically, we've started to work on this. We've done trenching on the ridge, and actually we've started a few drill holes just on some of these targets to test the soil geochem, but also in these saprolite environments. You really don't. It's often hard to tell what the bedrock geology is. So we're actually doing a few short scout holes just to get a handle on the geology. So this is just looking at some of the work we've done on that west side near that auger hole. And we have found a sort of a quartz-filled shear system, another shear here that the excavator was able to find. It isn't easy working in this turf finding things. But we do have an excavator that also works to move the drill. So when it's not moving the drill, we basically do the trenching. Oh, I would also mention, just for simplicity, we actually don't have to permit individual holes. The reporting system is sort of biannually to the government of what we've done. So, drill holes and things like that, we don't permit individual drill holes. So it actually makes it very easy to work there. So one of the other areas I mentioned was the extensions east and west off the Wenot. Obviously, the shear system doesn't just terminate. So to the east end, it does continue on, and you can see this was drilling from 1993, 95. Some interesting, and this is an unmined area, so these are right near surface values, but 21 meters at 1.3, 9 meters at 2.6, 15 meters at 1.9. These are good open pit grades. So you can see at the bottom right there in these sections that really they got below the saprolite, but they really went only down maybe 50, 75 meters max. So this is one of our targets that we are going to look at in the new year. So to the west of the Wenot pit and the shear extension, I think I mentioned that there's that blue sediment splay that comes off, and it's kind of interesting. It would be here, and actually someone who was working on the property said, Cambior wasn't going to invest any more money moving infrastructure. So your haul road was here. Here's the mill in the background there. That's now our camp. One of the old buildings has been repurposed. And most of the mill is obviously gone in the buildings, but just a couple large buildings left behind. So they weren't going to move this. So basically, this is a really interesting target that has never been mined. And I'll just show you give you the flavor for what you see there. So here's a section. You're way down at the west end of the pit here, just off the end of the pit. And you can see here multiple zones. The shear corridor appears to have migrated down into the sediments before it was fully straddling that contact. And at the west end, seems like it's splaying off into the sediments. And it wasn't mined, but you can see a near surface values of 5.2 meters of 8.7 grams, 27 meters of 2 grams, 14 meters of 5 grams. Lots of intersections. It's about a 200 meters, 150, 200 meters across here. It is obviously under some saprolite and some white sand, but these are great open pit targets. So, I mean, basically, we've got a path to building resources. We're already on our way to the 43-101. I would say that, this is deeper because it's under the existing pit. So, it's not something we would power through to a PEA. It's going to be, any mine plan is going to be in the context with Fennell, what we find at Broccoli Hill, what we find at the extensions. In an ideal world, it would be good to find and delineate a couple of open pit resources on the property, because that could profoundly affect the NPV of an ultimate mine plan that also tapped into Wenot and Fennell. So at the present time, we suspect that Fennell and Wenot would be open pit type, underground type things, where perhaps they're only 400 meters apart. Maybe there was a shaft in the middle that you would access both of them from the same shaft. But really, until we get a handle on all the resources on the property, the ultimate mine plan can't really be determined. So basically, Wenot and Fennell are the low-hanging fruit, and then the potential game changers. So I just say that, a lot of times in these exploration projects, there's the ability to execute is really important. And so, there's been a lot of progress in the last few months, but I'm very satisfied that, we have a great team in place with expertise, track record. We have someone who has, a 15-year experience on the property and knows the data inside out. We have a solid strategy, I think, that we can build resources, but we can also pursue some of these exploration targets that would be game changers for the company. And then, working in a mining-friendly jurisdiction is just fantastic. It's cooperation. We were trying to get a certificate of good standing from the government for our QP for the 43-101 report. And basically we sent them an email and we had it 3 days later. So, that's a good working relationship. And then it is a good place to work. It's year round. There is a rainy season. I haven't lived through the rainy season, but I understand you can keep working through it. We'll see. But basically, favorable operating site. As you can see, it's easy to get around, move the drill, and you don't have to permit individual holes or individual trenches. So you can explore fairly effectively and efficiently. We do have 2 drills on site, and they're going to stay on site. And there are 2 accredited labs in Georgetown that have been giving us 4 or 5 day turnaround on rush samples. So so I think the project's got all the ingredients and pretty low execution risk. So we're on the TSXV. I mentioned we did an RTO about a year ago. There was some like a lot of RTOs, there was sort of a catch-up period afterwards. A lot of shares outstanding, 227 million shares. Our market cap is 24 million or thereabouts. And so our strategic shareholders, Silver Corp owns 15.2%. They came in while the company was private initially and have been participating. And then Sandstorm holds just under 10% and has a 1% NSR. So that's us. So I guess someone can open it up to questions.
Terrific, Elaine. Thank you very much for a well-rounded tour. We're excited to engage with the audience. People have been quite busy dropping their questions into our column here, so I'm going to launch right in and ask, looking forward, Elaine, can you tell me what do you see as Omai's key market catalysts over the next 12 to 18 months?
Sure. No, good question. I think in the short term, we are expecting that 43101 from the Wenot resource within the next few weeks. So that would be the company's technically the first resource for the company. So that one's a major one. I think another thing is, we've sort of come out of this RTO and had some management changes. So I think our story actually isn't that well known. So we have to get out there and actually profile the company and get people understanding who we are, what the project is, and what we're doing. And then the Fennell, obviously, it's a historic resource, so it's sort of known, but I think verifying that is important. And then we've got a few key exploration targets that, there's gold mineralization there, there's potential for economic mineralization. So, a new discovery is going to have a lot of impact as well.
I appreciate that. Well, congratulations again on the appointment. It's really to take that position at the top of the company is only months recently. Just wondering what drew you to the company in general to take on that position.
As I said, I'm an exploration geologist, so I did know a bit about Omai over the years, and I was with Omai Gold, but after it had shut down. So I did know something about it, and I guess I've always been interested in projects where you already have a leg up that there's potential for economic mineralization, opportunities for new discoveries, and opportunities for something that you can see potential for 5 million ounces. So fair. I think it's all there.
Terrific. And it's a rare opportunity to speak to somebody who's in the position you're in recent months. What would you say your fingerprint on the company is, Elaine, having taken over the position of president and CEO? How has the DNA of the company changed, or your vision brought new energy to the trajectory?
Well, I think the main thing is, if you have a great project with lots of potential, and with a lot of historic data, you need a really, really good team. And so, I think the best approach is, I hired the best geologist I know. So I worked with him before, and he actually hired the best geologist. That fellow hired his best geologist he knew, and he hired his best. So there is a chain of people that have already worked together.
Yes.
And really solid people. I think also it's been easy attracting good people to the project, because geologists want to work on a project that, has a potential for discovery.
Yes.
And so that, a lot of people are actually having problems identifying qualified geologists these days. And so we had one person had turned down another job when he realized that there was the opportunity to work at Omai. So enthusiasm, that's high on the list, right? And then the other issue is cost cutting. I come from a lot of history with small companies, and you got to get the dollars in the ground, and you still have to do all your corporate reporting and everything else, but do it as efficiently as possible. Hire people who have no learning curves. Those people belong in the majors, but if you're a junior, you have people that have been there, done that, so that corporate costs down, just get the money into the ground.
Fair enough, and well said. Thank you, Elaine, for that. A couple more questions about the current state of the company and what you see coming down the pipeline regarding 2022 coming into play, quarter one in particular. Can you tell me what you see? That's a question from Ken comes in actually saying, how much Sandstorm paid to get 1% NSR?
That predates me by quite a bit. That's a good question, because that goes back to private days. They
okay.
I think it was 2.7 million.
Okay. Thank you for reaching back. I appreciate that. Next question around, again, driving the company. What have been your priorities and challenges to date since taking the seat?
Yeah, well, a little bit redundant, but for me, but yeah, the priority was definitely getting a team on the ground because when we went down, there were 2 drills turning, and so the mandate was to drill Wenot, get the Wenot resource before year end. So we kind of hit the ground on that. I think with a project with a lot of data, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. So it's fantastic to get production data because it's real. It tells you've got a leg up on so many things, but at the same time, you have to kind of use it all. So that's where Linda Hesterman, she has a lot of history on the project, and she agreed to work with us, and she's enthusiastic. So I think one of the challenges, as I said, it's a challenge getting all that data, and you want to use it. So we've had to hit the ground running, but I think we've done a good job, and I think everyone's earned the holiday break, and then we'll hit the ground running in January again.
Very good. Thank you, Elaine. One of the key questions we always ask for any company is around jurisdiction. And here at VID conferences, we've moved around the globe quite extensively: Greenland, Canada, southwest of the US, various parts of South America. Can you tell me a bit about what it's like to operate in Guyana, please?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't been to Guyana. I knew quite a bit about the geology of it, but I hadn't been there. So, I mean, and I imagine, interestingly, COVID doesn't seem to have affected traveling there. So I joined the board in March, and I went to the property the first time in May, only as a director, but I was able to go. And so the board, which sort of with all the quarantines didn't feel like they could go. So I went down, and, it's like going to a small town like Guyana. I think the population is only 700,000 people. So, I was actually invited to have dinner with the Minister of Natural Resources on my first trip down.
Wow.
So you get to know people very quickly. It's great for me because it's an English-speaking country. So I'm not great with languages. So, but yeah, no, I think it's more akin to working in a town in Northern Ontario in some ways, in that, people have been very helpful. You go over to the Marriott and stand in the lounge, and you'll see everybody you've met. So yeah, no, it's important in places like that to get on the ground and meet people, and that they want to see that the management are actually in the country. I think that's the recipe to success, and certainly the recipe to success in Guyana.
Understood. Thank you. That's a great perspective. One of our viewers, John, is asking, looking back to the history here, suggesting that the old Omai mine was power hungry, satisfied with diesel, which may be viewed negatively in today's ESG world. Curious, has anything changed with respect to power supply to the property?
Well, we're only in the exploration phase, so yeah, we're still running off diesel generators, but we're not mining. So our need is really just running the camp. Certainly, there actually have been some recent announcements that Guyana wants to get on the green initiative. That said, with some of the new offshore oil discoveries, Exxon is big there, and that's going to actually strongly, positively impact the Guyana economy. But as a country, yeah, they're thinking green, and there probably are some good solutions there. Certainly, solar would have some impact, and yeah, definitely have to consider that going forward. I can't see that a new mine being developed is going to be run off diesel.
Okay, thank you. We're getting some great coverage in different sectors here from the audience, Elaine. Bruce is asking, with the stock price still low, going from 20 to 10 cents, will 43-101 change that?
I hope so. I mean, the market is always difficult to predict how they will foresee things. I think our market cap is low relative to, the obvious asset there. As a first resource, as I said, it's under the Wenot pit, so it's not going to be a standalone. It's going to be in the context of the other nearby deposits. I think that's obvious when you see the property, and I hope that you can see that from what I said today. That said, I think it's a tangible milestone that gives us kind of an anchor valuation.
Very good. Thank you. I always like to toss in one open-ended question for our guests as we wrap up our session. We're approaching quarter to the hour. Just wondering, Elaine, if there's something else we haven't shared with the audience or anything that you feel has come to mind to offer in our session today that we haven't touched on.
No, I don't think so. I think for junior companies, ESG is sort of a challenge because we're not producers and things like that. But a lot of times exploration people will tell you that, ESG type things and being good corporate citizens is something that a lot of exploration companies have tried to do, regardless whether or not long before it had a label. So, I think that, one way to succeed in a country is to make sure that right from the beginning, you communicate well with all stakeholders. And, I think the team I have in place, they seem to be aware of that. I think we've got good relationships. No, I would just say that, I think our success in Guyana is going to be tied to, being responsible and communicative and doing all the right things on the governance front.
Very good. A well-rounded answer, and I think generally a fantastic tour of the company, Elaine, from your perspective. I want to thank you for your time. It's been very educational and informative for our audience around the world. And as always, we'll look forward to watching the company closely into 2022. For now, I'll send my best regards for the holiday season to you and yours.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Just want to touch base, folks, as well as we close out this session. The survey is next. Please send us your feedback. And at the top of the hour, we are winding down our 3-day conference with Star Peak Mining. So we'll look forward to seeing you at the top of the hour. Thanks so much.